I always had a fascination with computers. My grandfather, he built computers, and from a extremely young age, like 6, 7, 8 years old, I had access to like really like the great computers of the last few years. So I had access to some really good hardware, whereas, you know, a lot of other people at that age bracket, you know, they're not thinking about using the computer, or, you know, unless it's for school or whatever. You know, they didn't have a rig set up at their house and all that kind of thing. And I remember the dial-up days, like, you know, I had access to all of that so much earlier than a lot of people. And literally from those early days, you know, I just kept going into stuff like that. You know, I was into gaming from a very early age. I never had really an Xbox or a PlayStation. It was always computer gaming. So, you know, that kind of brought my journey into music through experimenting through like earlier production softwares like Sony Acid Pro and, you know, different really, really early softwares. And that kind of led the way and paved the way for me coming into high school, and then actually turning it into a not quite a serious thing yet, but a much more serious kind of thing compared to how it was. It was kind of just an experiment from the very beginning. I think my grandfather was always a big software guy. He was always a big introducing me to like you know, computer software, computer hardware, all that kind of thing. And I think just his influence kind of got me experimenting into it. And I guess, you know, you could say my mum's a singer, so I probably subconsciously took her entertainment you know, pathway from a young age. You know, hearing her sing, watching her perform, and all that kind of thing. And that's probably also had a subconscious impact on that as well. And you know, she's still singing. She's almost 60, and she's still singing. And like, I think without her support as well, like I definitely wouldn't be where I am today.
When did you start really, you know, when you said it became real, like what did that kind of look like for you? In terms of what were you actually doing to advance yourself in music?
I would say it became real in late year 11, and then started year 12, because that's when my music was reaching big audiences. You know, that's when YouTube was getting popping. Starting, you know, everyone had access to it. Everyone was, you know, doing all that kind of thing. I used to post mashups and stuff. So I used to be the DJ until I started producing music well enough to you know, make proper releases and kind of things like that. So year 11 and 12, I was kind of building a hype. You know, in the school, I was known as like the DJ, the guy like who does the DJing, but it's actually known for it. A funny thing was, I was voted most likely to become famous in high school, and I was just like, oh my god,
living it out.
Like you can imagine like the weird awkward kid that's just like super attention deficit, just like got voted like most likely to become like famous, and you're like, what? And then, you know, as
they called it.
Yeah. So yeah, I left school. I actually did IT for a year. So I did web system administration, and just did that for a year to see how it was. And I didn't like the 9 to 5, and that was kind of an early decider of, you know, I was like, you know, it's good work and it pays well, but at the same time, I'd rather do something creative, and I'd rather do something that I can sort of just freestyle and just do my thing. So yeah, as I started entering uni, my music started to become more and more popular. I started playing shows more. I started to, you know, play more clubs and stuff in Sydney. And mind you, during high school, I was still playing, the Ranch. You know, I was playing at the Epping Hotel, and like technically that's kind of probably where the journey really started. But it wasn't until about the second or third year in uni that things started really popping, because that's when, you know, I think that's probably around when Spotify started. And when Spotify started, everything just exploded, because, you know, I started touring overseas. I started, you know, my first overseas show was actually in Belgium. And I played a music festival in Belgium before I played one in Australia, which I find pretty weird. But that's kind of when things started becoming really serious. And then once I started traveling to Europe regularly, then things just exploded really, because the connections, you know, the people that you're working with, the record labels that you're working with as well. You know, walk into a record label, you know, like, holy shit, he's actually here. That's when things started really getting insane. But that kind of wasn't until I finished university, because you're still tied to uni. You've got to go to uni. You've got to attend your classes. So once I finished uni, I started going overseas regularly, started going to Holland, started going around. And then, just more shows, more gigs, and more music really after that. And now with like the new releases, like the plays are just phenomenal, and it's kind of actually pretty interesting. Like now to see how far things have come in just a few years with like Spotify, you know, YouTube streaming's gone up tenfold, iTunes streaming as well. There's so many different. We call them, like, so we have a distributor, and then you have platforms that you release on. So there's so many platforms that people listen to across the world. And like now your music can be exposed to like hundreds of millions, even billions of people. And just that expansiveness is just like insane.